Gotta have a gavel.
All right, welcome. We'll get started. Happy New Year. I think since we're starting a new year, we can go down the dais and do introductions for those who are here. So I'm Katie Walters. I'm Kitsap County Commissioner for District 3, which is Central Kitsap, and I'm this year's chair. And it's such an honor to chair this great committee. So I'll go ahead and introduce our vice chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm Clarence Moriwaki from the city of Bainbridge Island and fortunate to be the vice chair next to our chair, Katie Walters.
I'm Christine Rolfes, Kitsap County Commissioner.
Hi, Orrin Root, Kitsap County Commissioner, District 2, South Kitsap.
Morning, everyone. Ed Stern, Mayor of the City of Paulsville.
Good morning. I'm Anna Mockler, Bremerton City Council, District 6.
Jay Rosie Pepe, Port Orchard City Council, and Happy New Year.
Robert Driscoll, Teamsters Local 589 Principal Officer.
Hey, and online?
Port Orchard Mayor Rob Patansu.
Great. Thank you. Do you want to go this way too?
Sure. My name is John Clausen. I'm the Executive Director of Kitsap Transit.
Dave Weibel, Kitsap Transit Legal Counsel.
Charlotte Sampson, Kitsap Transit Executive Assistant and Deputy Clerk. Deputy Dom, Clerk of the Board, Public Records Officer. Great, thank you. It's going to be a great year. So first up on our agenda is agenda review. Is anyone all good? The point that you want to get to, we'll get to at the consent agenda item. Okay. All right.
I'll move approval of today's agenda as presented.
Right. All in favor of approval of the agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. The agenda is approved. Chairperson comments. Well, first, as I mentioned, it's just an honor to serve and work with all of you. And I just think we just keep our ridership at the center of all we do and here to support our amazing staff. So it's going to be a great year. So thank you. And I have to say, I was thinking about this 3 years ago. Super Tuesday was my first meeting as a county commissioner. Trial by fire, I couldn't even figure out where to park. So I think we've all come a long way. So it's going to be great. I look forward to serving. Thank you. All right. So John, you have our Community Advisory Committee update.
I do. The meeting that we held was kind of a combined meeting for November and December together since of the holidays. Everything kind of gets a little bit goofy, and the fact that you folks weren't planning to well, let me put it this way. We didn't have your agendas because of that shifting of their meeting dates. So, but we did talk a bit about the committee member renewals and putting some kind of maybe a term limit or something like that on, and we'll talk more about that. We talked a little bit more about, and I will share this in my report, the board composition review and the issue of you have the option to put voting citizen members onto the board, and that's part of what they've been talking about as well. And then we just talked a little bit under the good of the order, continued discussion regarding the timeliness of alerts that we send out in regards to service disruptions and things of that nature.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Clausen? Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. And I know Councilmember Mockler, you had a suggestion to take a couple of the items off. Do you want to make that motion?
I do. While the items 5E and 5F have in fact been distributed to the board, they've not been discussed by the board. There's a timeliness about the adopting legislative priorities since our lobbyist will be going down to the legislature in about a minute and a half. But there is no such timeless, and nonetheless, I think it should be discussed. Agenda item 5E is approving the Kitsap Transit 2026 goals, which I think deserves discussion. These have all been approved by staff, and I think that is valuable input. I also think that this board should sit down and talk about what are the 2026 goals, since the agenda item itself says that these goals will guide staff activities in the coming year. So I am proposing that we defer this to a study session and really take a good long look at this. That's my proposal, is that agenda item 5F be moved to general business, and that agenda item 5E be deferred to a subsequent study session.
Right.
I can't hear the last part, clerk by Don.
So
Yes, sorry, I'm using incorrect terminology. Yes, not general business, but to agenda item 6, full discussion action items.
thank you. I just wanted that clarification.
Sorry.
All right, so would you like to make the motion then to approve the consent agenda with the amendment of moving item E, approval of the Kitsap Transit goals to study session, and F to 6B for full discussion?
Second.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, just a point of order. I think wouldn't it would be more appropriate if we're asking to pull these items, that would be the motion versus
Okay.
approving without certain items. I think the order should be, if the intent is to remove something from the consent agenda, that would be the motion. And then looking for a second to do so. But
All right, so now I'm confused. All right, so we need to amend the motion then to remove the two items.
I think the appropriate motion
Motion.
would be to remove from consent and move to full discussion.
Discussion. Okay,
At that point, the board would have the opportunity to just address both of them, whether you're going to send them to committee or approve them. And then approve the consent agenda as amended would be the subsequent motion.
thank you, John. That was the point I was trying to make.
okay.
The suggestion was not to remove item 5, to move item 5E to full discussion, but to defer it to a subsequent study session. So may I suggest that we break this up into 2 motions?
I think what the recommendation is to remove them both to full discussion, and then in full discussion, then we can move it to a work study.
I love parliamentary procedure. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. You guys are just messing with me my first meeting. Thanks a lot.
Madam Chair, could we just ask the motion maker and second to withdraw their motion and then
Start over again.
Well, I withdraw Madam Chair's motion to remove both of these. I have not made a motion.
Okay. Okay.
My bad. As though we were at a wedding. Give it to me phrase by phrase, please.
You would move to withdraw your
Just
motion.
withdraw.
I withdraw my motion. Thank you.
Okay.
Second withdraws.
All right. And start over again. But do you want to make the new motion?
Move to bring both agenda items 5E and 5F into agenda item 6, full discussion action items.
Second.
Hi, whew. All right, so we move to remove E and F to full discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, that passes. All right, so now we're on to approval of the consent agenda with items E and F removed. So I need approval of that.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the consent action items A through D.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, that passes. All right, now we're on to full discussion. So we will take the item A first, and then we'll go back to E and F. Right, so item A, resolution number 2605, approval purchase of wheelchair lift vans.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is simply a request for us to be able to acquire some additional vans to be used in both our van link program and possibly our access program or van service, that sort of thing. We're proposing to buy 8 wheelchair lift minivans and also 3 wheelchair lift equipped full-size vans. That's a request. We will be purchasing off of the state contract at the dealers.
Do you have any questions? Councilman Rosa Pepe?
Chair, move to adopt resolution number 26-05, authorizing staff to purchase up to 8 wheelchair lift equipped minivans and up to 3 wheelchair lift equipped full-size vans. The estimated cost of $925,400.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion?
Just had a quick question, John, to piggyback on last month when we did an approval of vehicles. Any chance that these would show up prior to World Cup, or again, they're down the road a little bit?
Probably not. It just takes, electric buses take upwards of 18 months to get delivered. Some of those are diesel. They're faster, but maybe a year.
That's what I thought. Thank you, John.
Any further questions? Councilman Mochler, do you have a question?
Thank you. Yeah, I had just a couple of questions about these. What is the specific need for vans with wheelchair lifts as opposed to access vans?
These will go into programs like Van Link, which is a service that we provide vehicles to the various agencies that their clients would otherwise be able to use access. And then they provide an operator and then they provide transportation for their clients. So it's a substantial financial savings for the agency, and that we don't have to dispatch an access bus to move those clients. It works well for those various agencies because they have a better control over the schedule for their clients coming and going. So, and then of course, just making sure that all vehicles are ADA accessible.
Okay, so this is to transport clients for government agencies and nonprofit agencies around and about Kitsap County?
Correct. There are some remote situations where an agency could use the vehicle to transport their clients outside of the county. Good example would probably be the Special Olympics, where there might be a competition at Tacoma or something of that nature. But for the majority of it, it's transportation within the county.
Okay, and I ask the board's pardon for coming from Bremerton, where $1 million would finance operations for our hybrid shelter for a year. So thank you.
All right, any further discussion? All right, let's vote. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of moving to adopt resolution number 26-5, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Yes, opposed.
The motion passes with 1 opposition, Councilmember Mochler. All right, John, at this time, do we want to take drivers of the month or?
Yes, I
Then
think
we'll-
that would be timely if we could.
One of my favorite things.
Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. My name is Thomas Gilbert, the Routed Operations Manager. We are proud to recognize Justin Vandermost as the Routed Driver of the Month for November 2025. This marks Justin's 4th Driver of the Month award, a well-deserved milestone in his career. He has been with Kitsap Transit since March of 2023. So this March will be 23 years of providing safe and reliable service to the community. Some of his achievements are 34 Way to Go Awards, 10 Top Notch Driver Awards, 3 Distinguished Driver Awards, 118 Honor Roll recipient, and 2024 Safe Driving Award for 21 years. This is just an outstanding record that you have, Justin. And a fun fact about him is that he always comes to work with a positive attitude and a smile on his face for his customers and for his teammates. So congratulations. He has a few words too as well.
I'm just gonna make this pretty brief. Yeah, I just was pleasantly and well deservedly surprised. I feel that I hadn't had it in about 12, 13 years since my last Driver of the Month award. So, you know, I was wondering when it ever hit me again, and thankfully it finally did. So, you know, I wanted to thank everybody that voted for me, and appreciate you all, and thank you.
We have an award for you here. Congratulations. What a career.
And as Justin walks up, I'd like to point out that very stylish jacket that he's wearing that he earned for 20 years of safe driving without an accident.
Hey, congratulations. Long time.
Congratulations. That's great. Those are great jackets.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Vinecourt, Access Manager. My pleasure to introduce Dawson Crone, when he brought his beautiful daughter, Lavender. Access Driver of the Month for November 2025. Dawson's been awarded, this is his first Driver of the Month. He's been with Kitsap Transit since 2023. Dawson's been awarded 1 Distinguished Driving Award, been on the honor roll 8 times in his career. His most memorable moment at Kitsap Transit was when a client called him a marvelous specimen of a man when he escorted them to the door. His professional goal is to become a mentor and eventually dispatcher. Dawson's hobbies include painting, playing video games with his brother. His words of wisdom: try to stay positive and have fun at work. Congratulations.
Hello.
Just want to thank my daughter for giving me a good reason to always be good at work and always make sure I come home. And my lovely wife for always supporting me, even when I was extra bored and having to wake up at 3 a.m. But it's a great honor. I was very surprised by it because the supervisor that gave it to me surprised me with like, "Oh, I need you to sign some paperwork." And I was like, "Oh, I got in trouble for something." He's like, "Oh, that's the wrong paperwork. Here you go." But thank you all so much.
Congratulations. I think we all are, in honor of Lavender.
Take note, we need more maybe.
Yeah, well done.
Good morning, Cindy Griffey, Worker Driver Program. Our November Driver of the Month for 2025 is Lindsay Skelly. Lindsay's most memorable moment was picking up a runaway that was standing on the side of the road and doing her best to keep an eye on him until the police arrived with the help of passengers. and keeping him calm and distracted. Lindsay's hobbies include searching for fun and creative ways to abide by KT's reflective gear rule. Is there, no picture. And spending as much free time as she can with her niece and nephew. Her words of advice are to trust your instincts and keep your head on a swivel. Lindsay was our very first worker driver of the year in 2019 and has been worker driver of the month every year since. She's an integral part of the worker driver program and is always ready to lend a helping hand to fellow drivers, as well as assisting me with logistics and occasionally acting as radio coverage in my place. She is a battery shop supervisor at PSNS. And
Great.
Sorry, I don't have a speech, so thank you, everybody.
Well, that was fun. Thank you. All right, back to our full discussion items. We'll now be discussing item E and F from above. So looking at resolution number 2603, approval of Kitsap Transit's 2026 goals. And John, do you want to discuss this? Because I believe these were a continuation of last year's goals.
Yes, this is a continuation of some of last year's goals that were not finished for this year, but are still very important. Of course, we also look at the what I believe to be the most important in the sense of, you mentioned it earlier, Madam Chair, our ridership and making sure that we keep our focus on providing service to the community and increasing the ridership. And I will add that although I welcome the opportunity for more discussion at the board level, I've requested at 2 different occasions throughout the year for input from the board as far as goal items. So these are items that were developed in-house by staff simply because I hadn't received any input from the board.
Right, further discussion?
Move to defer this agenda item to the next study session.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Because we'll have discussion at a work study. All right, so it's been moved and seconded to defer this item, the Kitsap Transit 2026 goals, to our next work study. Oh. Commissioner Rosapecki.
It's just a quick add note that, well, I'm not against deferring them. I think that we need to, as a board, be a little bit more on top of this. If John's asked for input prior to going into that, it kind of not delays the inevitable, but does create a little bit of uncertainty. So none of these goals are unique or new to transit. So deferring them doesn't make much sense. I would say that we need to be a little bit more on top of our game and getting them input earlier to John, so that these come before the board in a timely manner.
That's a good point. So for 27, we're making a commitment to come to you sooner.
I appreciate the comments, and we try to do these early enough so that if there are any goals that would have an effect on the budget, we put in that request in advance of actually finalizing or developing the budget, so that, again, we could develop the budget to follow along with goals that have been established. So appreciate the comment. Thank you.
And the point that I would make, I thank you. In 2027, we'll do it in a more robust way. The exhibits as they stand are very clear that it's staff goals, which is very different to me than a board goal. So it would really be the staff recommend the following goals. as we discuss them at our next work study, hopefully we can evolve the language to be the agency goals are rather than staff report. So just a heads up on the need for some language change.
As often, Commissioner Rolfes has said what I intended to say.
All right, well then let's vote. So it's been moved and seconded to move the Kitsap Transit 2026 goals to work study. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Jay, did you vote no? No, all right. And Rob? Oh,
I
all right.
voted aye.
Aye, all right. So we'll move those to our next work study. All right, then on to resolution number 2604, adopting 2026 legislative priorities. And I do believe these were presented at our last meeting.
Correct. They were presented at the December meeting for input and discussion.
Chair, I'd move to adopt resolution number 26-04, adopting the 2026 legislative priorities for Kitsap Transit.
Second,
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt our 2026 legislative priorities. And now there's discussion. So is there any need to have further discussion of this or?
Yes, I want to be very clear. There has been one addition since the list that was presented to you in December. So I want to make sure that you're aware of it. I've added the provision to support and work with the legislature to try to get funding allocated to Washington State Ferries for the removal of Pier 48. Pier 48 in our planning effort through this, up to this point, has always been with the expectation and support from Washington State Ferries that they would be responsible for removing the old pier. They have asked at least two that I'm aware of, possibly more, to get funding from the legislature to be able to remove it. They've not been successful. And as a result, it has changed this, potentially could change the scope of our project that we've been working with the FTA on, and we've been developing our plan with the expectation that the pier would be removed. So if we have to be responsible for the removal of the pier, we basically have to start over from square one with all of our environmental work that we've been doing with FTA to get the project approved. So in talking with WSF, they can't be out front, that their budget is developed through DOT in its entirety and through the governor's office, but we can certainly advocate to get funding allocated to WSF so that they can move that project forward. I wanted to make sure that I added that since the last board meeting, and I want to make sure it was clear, but all the other items were presented to you at the last board meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to make sure I'm understanding. So it is in our board packet on page 23. So that line is the line you added since the last meeting.
Correct.
Very good. Thanks.
Mayor Stern?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just playing catch up, new on the board again. The context for this, John, why this kind of contingency wasn't anticipated or budget difficulty, what was the original operating assumption with Pier 48? With whom?
Well, WSF has planned for years to remove the pier, which is a pretty exhaustive project. There's environmental cleanup that needs to be done as well as the demolition. They would remove it and then they would get the credits, if you will, for removing shading over water, that they could bank that mitigation credit and be used at other terminal improvements and things of that nature. So it's always been their intent that they wanted to remove the dock. They've requested it at least twice that I'm aware of for funding, and they weren't successful through the legislature. So it's not been on their list of requests for this legislative session. But because of our interest in it, I felt that it was important that we could at least show support and encourage the legislature to fund that for Washington State Ferry so that they could go ahead and remove it.
Very clear. Thank you.
All right, without further discussion then, it's been moved and.
Sorry.
Okay, Councilmember Mochler.
I beg your pardon, Chair, I wasn't fast enough. I know that lobbying occurs for park and ride projects and that they are very popular among legislators. However, our most recent report shows that average use of these park and rides is about 24%. Whereas we have crying needs for things like bus shelters, not just on streets, but also at the park and rides, enabling people to carpool without becoming soaked. So I was wondering if this board was interested in adding these bus stop shelters to the legislative asks, perhaps in lieu of or in addition to the park and ride lobbying.
Do we have interest in that?
And, Council, I'm not opposed to it, but this is a challenging budget, and to have different, ask priorities, I think, misses our strategic point of trying to get this one project done first. I'm not opposed to bus shelters. Believe me, I look at the, day road park and ride where my constituents are on that. Yeah, so I understand it clearly. But I think we should be focused on what we might strategically be able to accomplish, in this budget. That's my only concern.
Okay, I'm pitching it because it seems like a really great way to increase ridership, which is one of our proposed goals. But practicality, pragmatism, you guys, we are all pretty good at that.
Madam Chair, Mayor Potemkin has his hand up.
Okay, Mayor.
I share Councilmember Moriwaki's sentiments in regard to this. I think bus shelters are important, but money is going to be limited, very limited, if it's anything is available in this legislative session. And I don't believe bus shelters are more important than our need to build more park and ride lots.
All right, so following this discussion, we have decided to move forward with the listed legislative priorities, which is preserve and protect state investments in public transportation, support efforts to ensure adequate ferry service to Bremerton, protect biennial toll credit budget proviso, explore opportunities for expanded investment in zero emission bus and ferry technology, explore opportunities for funding allocated to Washington State ferries for the removal of Pier 48, and support WSTA legislative agenda. Right? So with that, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you. All right, and I think that was worthwhile taking off. Thank you.
Can I ask a clarifying question that, and I did vote aye for this, the supporting the Bremerton service, that's our fast ferry service to Bremerton, is that?
Well, in my mind, it's both. It's not only supporting our fast ferry and the continuation, but also is just general support for Washington State Ferry's operation between Bremerton and Seattle.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So executive director items next.
Yeah, I just have a few things. Excuse me. One is I'm happy to announce that at the next work study, I'll be able to introduce our new Marine Services Director. We went through a recruitment and we were able to select an individual, and he's accepted the offer and actually will be on the job next Monday. So unfortunately, wasn't in time for the board meeting today, but the young man has been employed for a number of years by Argosy in Seattle, has worked his way through from deckhand to captain to operations manager for a while. He's earned his master's in business administration. He's actually done some additional studies in Belfast, Ireland, and all in the marine industry. So he's got quite a background, and we're excited to have him on board. So next Monday, he'll be starting. The other thing I wanted to share, just a couple things that are coming up. One is the National Transit Association, American Public Transit Association, has an annual meeting once a year, and every third year they have their annual meeting along with an expo. And in 2026 is going to be the year of the expo. The expo is essentially the home show of transit. They will have vendors from literally all over the world showing their products and services and various things and I often have referred to it as you can learn anything about transit from bus tokens to locomotives and everything in between. It's quite a large event, and the reason that I bring this up is that it is coming this year, and I would certainly encourage board members, if your schedule allows, to attend the meeting. It's going to be held in Chicago, and I believe it was October of this year. So I wanted to give you plenty of heads up. It's usually the 3rd through the 8th, I guess, of October. So just a heads up for it. And then the other piece is just to bring to the board's attention, and I mentioned this in my CAC report. Every 4 years, we're obligated to go through a process that's referred to as the board composition review. And this is a process where we ask each jurisdiction on the transit board, all the cities in the county, to select a member to represent their jurisdiction, and that group will come together and make decisions about the composition of the board. And they have some latitude. They can change representation. They can change the size of the board. They can't go over the 9 members. So anyway, that group will be meeting this year, and we'll be sending out letters to each of the jurisdictions and asking for each jurisdiction to designate an individual. They come together, select a chair, and they go through that process. So just wanted to let the board know and be ready for a letter within the next couple of months of notifying each jurisdiction. So, and that, I guess the only other thing I would add is that for your first meeting, Madam Chair, I think we're going to finish rather early.
Chair, I'd just like to echo John's comments about the expo. Having attended that several times in my previous life, not only, is it great to see what's going on, but the breakout sessions are tremendous. Seeing what's happening in not only in the industry, but listening to other jurisdictions, organizations talk about what their challenges are and what their solutions are. So if you get a chance to go, if you can make that on your calendar, I would strongly recommend it, especially since it's the triennial, every 3 years when they combine them both. So strongly recommend it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. You probably already have this in plan, Director Clausen, but this new Marine Services Director, I would hope that he would come to one of our board meetings. You can meet this impressive sounding candidate and just get to know him a bit.
Yes, definitely. He will be at all of the board meetings going forward. So.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I saw that our Kitsap transit lobbyist is here. Did we want him to say anything?
He's certainly welcome. He was here primarily because of the agenda item for the legislative agenda. He's obviously, Dylan and I work closely to develop that. He does a lot of putting this together. So Dylan, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to share. You're welcome. We've got plenty of time if the chair is okay with it.
Absolutely.
Please don't.
All right, good morning. Dylan Doty, your lobbyist down in Olympia. Appreciate the conversation earlier today. And as John said, I'm mainly here just for that. And also we have a meeting after this meeting with one of our local senators. So setting out our ledge agenda. But I guess I'll just give the high level, massive high level preview. We're starting on Monday. It's going to be 60 days. It's going to be pretty quick, pretty fast paced. They want to get done on time this year so they can go raise money for their reelections this coming fall. Funny how that works. One thing that I will say is that the transportation budget is not in as dire straits as the operating budget, but to that end, what we may see is a pullback of the state general fund sales tax transfer that was approved last year from the general fund to the transportation budget might be pulled back to the operating budget. And in which case the out years for the transportation budget might start looking a little bit concerning. So there's the whole notion of blood out of turnips or stones or whatever you prefer. And so I'm not sure exactly how much money is going to be available for things like Pier 48 or park and rides or bus shelters or any of that for that matter this coming year. The vast majority of the governor's proposed transportation budget goes to maintenance and preservation, which has been pretty significantly underfunded over the years, basic paving, bridge repair, things like that. And so that's where a lot of the focus is this year. Transit funding is not really in the crosshairs, knock on wood, at least as of today. But we will have an opportunity to see how that shifts as the session moves forward. And Councilmember Mockler, I would say on the bus shelter issue, a lot of those funds for park and rides and others come through a grant program. It's a competitive grant program called Regional Mobility Grants and Rural Mobility Grants. We're eligible for the Regional Mobility Grants. And so to the extent that our capital plan has those, then obviously Stephanie and I would work together on that to make sure we're submitting what is approved by the board. And hopefully those will be funded as we continue forward. I know that we've got another little bucket of money, a couple of million, that was earmarked way back in the Connecting Washington transportation package that is due in the coming biennium for a project that has already been completed. And so we'll be looking to kind of transfer that to something else. So just keep that in mind probably for next year. So welcome any questions or thoughts, but hopefully we'll be done in time for me to go to spring training this year. So
I have two questions related to this. Dylan, the money that you just referenced from, that was for a project we've already done.
Yeah.
Do we need to work with our legislators to redefine that in the budget? Or are you going to get that money and then you'll work with the administration?
we'll rename the project when it comes time for an actual appropriation in the coming biennium. And so the discussion on that one, what the Connecting Washington package did is it programmed out or attempted to program out 15, 16 years worth of projects based on what we knew at the time. And of course, so we submitted several projects saying, here's our work plan that they produced money for, but some of them were staggered in out year biennia. And so this next one was a 2027 to 29 biennia. And I believe that was a Silverdale project. Yeah. And so that one's already been completed. So Senator Leas and others on the transportation budget committee appreciate that. And they know that legislators voted for that to follow the agency, not necessarily the project. And so when it's time for an appropriation, we'll rename that appropriately.
That's my question. When it's time for appropriation, does that mean in this legislative?
No, it'll be next legislative session. Yeah.
We'll be working as a board with Stephanie and staff on
identifying what would fit that 1.7 or is it 1.7 or 2.1? I'm going off memory now.
that is coincidentally exactly what we need to finish the roundabout at Day Road and 305.
Sometimes these things are serendipitous.
And my second question is the county has on our legislative agenda continued supplemental funding for the Bremerton Seattle route and beyond FIFA until the state ferry system is fully stabilized. But that it didn't look like the same thing. It looked like Kitsap, it was just protecting the funding we have through FIFA. Am I correct?
The way we've worded this and the way I'm looking at it is, and maybe we're getting a little too cute with our words, is ensure adequate ferry service. Funding for adequate ferry service, whatever that looks like. Obviously, if the Bremerton WSF run is not there, then we'd look for continued backfill for our midday runs. but we're also looking at opportunities or maybe a menu of options to present the legislature for expanded FIFA service, and things like that for both ferry and bus. And it's basically saying, hey, legislature, if you want this, here's what it would cost. And so they can produce some funding, for us on that end. So, and I know that Tom and the crew for the county lobbying has been hounding me to get a number, and we don't have a number necessarily. We just have, kind of an opportunity to seek something additional. So that's how I was viewing it, is that it is the same. We want to ensure adequate service, whatever that looks like.
I just want to make sure the county's lobbying for the same,
Yeah.
the right thing. I met with Senator Krishna Dawson yesterday and said, we love the through FIFA and we like it until there's stability.
That might be the senator that we're seeing in just a little bit. So we'll,
Okay,
follow
so-
up.
Okay. So that is a
Yeah,
goal, is
yeah.
to continue.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks. I hope that you're able to make it to spring training because you were successful getting a division championship for us last year. So let's look for that second run. You mentioned the sales tax bump. I mean, off the top of your head, if that is removed, what is that impact? How much money has been contributed from that fund to the transportation budget?
None yet. What they were doing is programming. I think it was 1.1 billion in the future on that. And so we're talking about sales tax received from auto sales primarily, and they'd be shifting some of that to the transportation budget, which is something that transportation budget writers have wanted for a long time. Operating budget writers have tended to hold off on for various reasons, and they approved it last year. And whether that can survive a tough budget year is anybody's guess. The operating budget, and I did put some of this in my report, is looking at about a $2.3 billion shortfall right now is the number that they've landed on. That's about 1.6 billion in shortfall plus 700 million in new spending requests that were approved by the governor in his proposed budget, which is sometimes referred to as the least consequential document in Olympia, as the governor proposes a budget that then the legislature completely rewrites. But that's where the issue would come in, is in the out years. And so what they're looking at doing this year is potentially bonding, which they did not do in the transportation budget last year. And so if you bond, you get an influx of cash up front that they can then spend on maintenance and preservation, on paving and things like that. That's separate from that transfer. But if that transfer does not come to fruition, then some of the out year budget projections for the transportation budget might need to be rejiggered there. So.
Well, I really don't like that picture you're painting, but that's what we've got to deal with. Thanks for all your work.
And get ready to pay an income tax if you make over $1 million.
Starting at
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Happy New Year, Dylan.
Happy New Year.
Some of this is a little bit of catch up. It's better part of 3 years since I was on the board last.
It doesn't seem like it.
The Pier 48, the Pier 48. Not asking you to handicap because really that's not your job, but understanding the larger implication of removing, light to eelgrass and the environmental improvements, removing what are probably problematic pier structure. To what degree can we enlist the help of what would seem to be allies, the city of Seattle, the Suquamish tribe, other interests like the Puget Sound Partnership, to enhance the opportunity to secure funding past just the transit aspect, but the environmental aspect and others, I would imagine, that could be wrapped into it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think that the concern with funding on this has anything to do with a lack of desire or a lack of support for it. It's simply a dollars and cents game and a timing issue, has been my understanding. And John could probably talk about this better than I can, but there's a reason in my mind why this hasn't been funded yet, which is that it wasn't ready for prime time necessarily. They weren't ready to actually do the work. Now, the problem with that is that when something comes off a work plan, then trying to get it back on is the challenge. And so I don't know if we have an exact dollar amount, John, that we'd be seeking on this, but
We're working with WSF to get, I think the last time they had put in a request, it was somewhere around $20 million for the removal. So it's not, it's not chump change by any means.
there are eligible pots of money. This would be seemingly be eligible for CCA dollars, for instance, which is one growing pot of money in Olympia, the Climate Commitment Act dollars, growing so much so that we just saw a bill introduced yesterday, I believe, by Representative Fitzgibbon to share that CCA dollars with some other funds, including the Working Families Child Tax Credit and other things that were not necessarily directly related to CCA when it was passed. And so if they start dipping their hands into that bucket too, then who knows, where that goes down the line. But just to conclude on that, I don't think that it's a lack of desire. I think it's just a lack of timing and money. So.
Hey, Dylan, in your report, you mentioned the Washington Highway Users Federation, that they convene Wednesday morning meetings throughout the session to serve as a forum for transportation leaders. Is that something you could send us the link to if we have any
Absolutely.
board members that might be interested in?
Yeah, absolutely. Be more than welcome to Zoom in unless you want to come to Olympia for a 7 a.m. meeting. But I think there's usually a staggered or set agenda, just so you know. The first week is usually the governor's office and OFM talking about the budget from the governor's perspective. Weeks 2 and 3 are usually the chairs of House and Senate, and then the ranking members. And so we kind of go down the list there throughout session. And so some may be more on point than others for you, but can definitely make sure you get that link.
Okay, thank you. Right. Any other questions? Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate
pleasure.
it. Good
Thanks,
luck with
guys.
your meeting.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And that actually worked out perfect because it was on our list of staff recognition and progress report. So we're moving straight ahead there. John, do you want to address the other staff reports?
No, I think they're just as distributed.
Thank you. All right, then we'll on to public comment. You have anyone signed up? No, anyone here? All right, then we'll move on to good of the order. So transit board members, any comments?
Thank you. Because one of the things that we occasionally touch on in these meetings is the feeling among many residents of Kitsap County that if buses are made free or overly frequent, that they will become occupied by unhoused people, which again, many people in Kitsap County view as a monolithic group. And I would say often unfavorably. And it is for this reason that I am urging all of you to attend the Project Connect on Thursday, January 29th at the Salvation Army in Bremerton. And why Bremerton? Because Bremerton is the place where your kids can get eyeglasses or grownups can get eyeglasses. As a kid who had a tough time reading the board, until I had glasses and I could be like super smart again, I really encourage that. It may be that if you attend this, that you will come away reinforced in this common conception of the homeless population who are our homeless neighbors. And it may be that you may think differently about transit after this. I do this every year. It's a pretty wonderful event. Also, got to say the food is good. Upstairs are a lot of the resources that many of us in our other elected positions fund and interact with, and to watch them interacting with the people they serve is pretty great. Sometimes the haircuts are good, sometimes they're just acceptable. So I don't know if you've got a good salon, maybe not. Anyhow, it's Thursday, January 29th, 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. at the Salvation Army right down here on 6th Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Any other board member comments or updates? All right. I think with that, we will adjourn this meeting at 11:24. Thank you, everyone. Happy New Year.